Are you curious about the price action of Truflation or TRUF, the TRUF token? I've done a full video on it, which I'll link at the end of this one, but today's video is going to focus on a price analysis of Truflation, looking at likely paths forward for the price of this token. This is Crypto Simulation Theory. I am the Gaussian Snek, and I invite you to follow this channel and also to join my free Telegram group, the Snek Pit, for daily chart analysis, a strong community of like-minded investors like you and me, and access to learning about brand new projects before anyone else finds out about them. It's a great group. I encourage you to sign up. It's completely free. Because Truflation is a fairly new token, I would know. I was watching it with my Telegram group live right as it dropped. There is not a lot of price history, so we have to be careful about not going any higher than probably a daily time frame with the price analysis. Not a problem for me though. I'm used to analyzing coins on this time frame. So if I use a swing low to swing high, that's more accurate right there, I can, create some fibs. And we have been kind of testing this 236 fib, just straddling it really for quite a while. Now, I drew this red zone, which is just above the 382 fib, quite a little while ago to indicate what I felt was a likely place of support. And guess what? We wicked right down into it and we back tested it again recently and we held it as support. We're back up to testing this 0.236 fib. I think in the future, this 0.236 fib is going to be like a rock solid place where we are just very likely to find support and probably not fall through it again for quite a while if we ever do. The reason why I drew this red zone though has to do with this horizontal volume support from the first couple days of launch, because really there isn't a whole lot of volume support beyond that. So like I think, anything from like 40 cents to, about 46 cents I thought was fairly likely. Now the question is, where do we go from here? Do we potentially face further downside in price, or might we be forming a base for a move higher? I actually think I was the first person to cover TRUF and make a video on it. So, yeah, there's something certainly personal about this token to me. I do own some, for full disclosure. So we are in the 4-hour time frame, and what you'll notice is we had a very clean bear market drop. That's what I'm going to call it. It's not a bear market in crypto, but you know what I mean, a downtrend. So let me pull out a little drawing tool here to help out with this. And let's see, we can make like a path. So we had our drop down to here, and then a little bit of mean reversion, and then another drop down, and it looks like we might be trying to go back up again. I'm never good at letting this path tool go. So it's something like that, so it looks like we have actually put in a slightly higher low. And the Gaussian channel went concave down red. We had a very clean exit out of that Gaussian channel, and then it went green again, which is good news. Now this is on the 4-hour time frame. Weighted logarithmic Bollinger Bands were straight down all the way through April. In May, we got up above the, we blasted right through this Gaussian channel, the red concave up, and now we are testing the green Gaussian channel. And so the question is, well, is this about to turn red again, or is it likely to kind of, curl back up and lead to more bullish price action? I wanted to pull up the daily time frame to show you something about the weighted logarithmic Bollinger Bands. A big move's coming. Whenever you see these start to squeeze, that means there's very little variation. In fact, we could probably turn on volume. Let's see if we can go ahead and do that. You're probably going to see volume contracting. Yeah, volume has been contracting. And so this is usually a bullish sign, especially in this kind of formation. We're way above the green Gaussian channel. No real danger of breaching it. I can't say for sure what happens, but my gut feeling is this probably breaks to the upside. Now we are having some issues, okay? We did kind of fake out above the green Gunnar EMA line, which would have been bullish, but now we're coming back below it again. And every time we're testing it, we're trying to back test it, we just keep failing. So I'm not terribly happy about that. Now, I said my feeling was this would break out to the upside, but feelings are feelings, right? We need evidence. This does not look great, to be honest with you. I also, I'm not going to show it, but I had a 20-day HMA. I want to focus more on the 4-hour time frame, and this was actually trending below that 20-day HMA. So wasn't too happy about that either. But the fact that the Gaussian channel is green in the 4-hour time frame is a little bit reassuring, but it's a 4-hour time frame. We are way above the Gaussian channel. If you remember, it was, I can turn it back on. It was down below this graph here. There are instances where you may come as a new coin down here to test it. You could either test it at the top or test it in the middle. It can happen. And so that's something we should be aware of, that sometimes projects do fall into the Gaussian channel. It's just a little bit hard to know. This has been flagging kind of, ever since this huge pump. And that arguably is a bullish kind of idea, kind of doing this falling wedge. But we don't know how long that will take to resolve. So I'm not liking the way this looks too much initially, but at the same time, it looks a heck of a lot better than it looked over here. Let's pull up the 4-hour and see what's going on. Now, if you really zoom in on the 4-hour, what you'll notice is we had a bearish cross on May 9th after having a bullish cross on May 4th. And it looks like we're trying to do another bullish cross, but failing. So we'll have to see how these candles go over the next day. We've been putting in higher lows, but also lower highs. So it's hard to really tell exactly what's going to happen here. This looks pretty neutral and difficult to analyze. So we're going to have to dig deeper. Very interesting thing going on here with the HMAs. We had a 2 consecutive death crosses fairly recently, May 9th, so just 3 days ago. We had the death cross of the 20. Now this is on the 4 hours, so it'll be the 80 hour, but let's kind of just call it the 20, 50, and 100, and you guys can figure out the number of hours by multiplying by 4. We had a death cross of the 20, and then immediately followed by a death cross of the 50, and so the 100 looms overhead. Now the good news is we have reclaimed the 20. As you can see here, the 20 kind of is starting to curl back up. We can see that even the 50 is starting to curl back up a little bit. The bad news is 100 is still kind of curling down, so there seems to be some resistance here around 53 cents. I'm not sure if we can overcome that on this try. So my bigger concern is that because of all this downward pressure that we've had, all this downward price action for such a long time, a long time being like on a 4-hour time frame, that this could keep turning down. Now I am seeing an inflection here, which is a little bit reassuring. So the fact that it's holding the 20 and the 50 is now below the 20, so there's a little bit of a golden cross between the 20 and the 50, that's a good thing. And the fact that the 20 is heading up kind of aggressively, that's a good thing. The fact that the 100 is starting to flatten out, potentially a good thing. So that's the squeeze we're kind of seeing here. We can't really infer much more from this other than there's some squeezing going on and a big move is likely coming. We have yet to really definitively say whether it's more likely to be up or down, although my intuition is saying up. We need some evidence again to back that intuition up, and I'm not seeing that quite yet. The Gaussian ribbon is red. It is nice to see us penetrating the red ribbon. It's the opposite of what happens when you penetrate a green ribbon. That eventually leads to a big downfall. So we are kind of coming back down here, but maybe we can penetrate it and succeed like we did back here. I mean, this is a really long red ribbon. And a 4-hour time frame, you would call this a bear market, a 4-hour bear market, and then maybe this is like an accumulation phase. Okay, so while I think price could be choppy, what this is seeming to suggest with the shape of the ribbons and kind of flattening out is that we're in an accumulation range. That's actually good news, because usually following an accumulation range, while you can have drops and when it's possible we retest these levels, generally speaking, that is leading to some bullish price action. My all charts pattern indicator is of no help, as it prints a triangle and it's basically saying, well, one of two things is going to happen. We're either going down to 15 cents or we're going up to around 82 cents. I think 82 cents is more likely. I think retesting these highs is way more likely than heading down to these depths. We've had some prices bought up. Generally, anything below 50 cents gets gobbled up pretty quickly. So I'm not really taking this downside target seriously at all. I'd actually be more inclined to believe this upside target, where we're retesting these highs here, is a more likely outcome. The 4-hour ADX and DI pretty much reflects just what we already know, which is crabbing behavior. There's not a whole lot we can gain from this, except that the trend is starting to strengthen, and that's why I said, everything is showing this big move coming. We did have a big bout of bearishness over here, so maybe the odds are, and I think the odds are bullishness. I just do. I think bullish price action out of TRUF is way more likely. than bearishness. We've had so much bearishness. Let's flip this to the daily time frame and see what that is saying. Okay. Yeah, not much. We can't really discern anything from this, other than you've got a decreasing ADX, so the trend has been weakening. This is just indicating consolidation. This could very easily just pop back up, and you're also seeing a decrease in bullishness, and it's just totally flat. This is just flat out consolidation. You can't tell anything from the daily time frame. It is as neutral as you get. So I prefer this 4-hour time frame. It tells you a little bit more, but still not as much as I'd like it to. The average sentiment oscillator, which is a cousin of the ADX and DI, it is showing a little bit of green. It's like, I want to be green so badly. We had these two major reds. This is very characteristic of a falling wedge, and then we had some recovery, and now we're getting a little bit of red again. I don't think we're going to see anything like this again. At worst, I think we just crab a little bit more. Maybe we get a little bit of red action where we go down just a little bit and then go back up, but I'm thinking we're due for some big greens. So I think that's likely coming. What does this look like on the daily, just out of curiosity? It's just like, it's hilarious, right? Consolidation, neutral, just like everything else we've seen so far. Now, the bull bear power trend, I do like what I'm seeing. You can see a full carving of bearishness right here, bears in control, and the bears are losing control. We had a little period where bulls were in control. Another smaller echo of what happened here. I think, we could see a little bit more bearishness, but I see what's forming here is an inverse head and shoulders on the bearishness. That's telling me upside is more likely. So we've seen the first chart that definitively says, hey guys, upside is a little bit more likely than downside. So that's a point for the bulls. I think everything else has just been a point for the neutral. Like no points at all. First point for the bulls. My Coin Bureau, I'm not officially affiliated with Coin Bureau, but that's what the indicators call it, Coin Bureau indicator. It's some weird indicator. Has shown, of course, it showed a buy here. This is on a 4-hour time frame, but it did show another buy signal recently, around 46 cents. And so these do not trigger easily. They trigger a little more easily on a 4-hour time frame. If we take it to a 6-hour time frame, we don't have anything triggering at all. So let's keep that in mind. But on the 4-hour time frame, we did get a buy signal here. So that is something indicating a potential bottom that formed. This is a higher low than the one here. So this did confirm. And now we just need to see if it holds. You have to almost treat a 4-hour chart like it's a weekly chart when you have so little data to work with. So we got pretty high up, on our just right out of the gate. Our first, when we put in that local high, it's around 72.36 on the price momentum oscillator. Of course, we had to come down. It kind of looks like we carved out a nice bottom. We got, when you get this low, you're generally not going to revisit that for a while. It was like negative 87. We came back up again, put in a slightly lower high, and then really just the floor fell out. This is sort of a secondary test where we went in a higher low than what we did here, coming back up. So I'm expecting, a little bit of neutral, but this channel is green, so this does slightly favor the bulls, maybe. It's hard to say. I'll just kind of call this one inconclusive. With a very slight bullish bias. So I'm not sure we can give a full point to the bulls here, but maybe like instead of 1 point for the bulls is like 1.25 points now. I'm not going to keep track of it like that, but you get my drift. The Snabble RSI has been all over the place. We did get quite high, as you can see here. This is like topping signal high, and then we had that like sharp drawdown bounce, and then we got into the like really low zone, like damn near zero. Stayed down there for a little while, tried to pop back up, had some bullish divergence only to get taken out again. Again, we popped our head above here, and then we came down again very low. We actually took out, or maybe printed a double bottom on the Snapple RSI, and now it looks like we're kind of just chopping around sideways. So hard to say exactly where this goes from here. It looks like we're trying to back test. The fact that we're above 50 is good. It's a good thing. This looks like it's trying to curl up a little bit. So maybe we come down and we successfully hold the median line and head back up again. So I'd love to see this be bullish divergence, but of course I can't prove that. Let's take a look at traditional RSI and stochastic RSI to kind of see maybe a clearer picture. Well, the good news is we carved out a nice bottom here back in late April. Appears like we got some relief only to come back down again. But we didn't, come down quite as low, so that's a good thing. The stochastic RSI just dipped to 15. It didn't go like down near zero. And so this is just a healthy consolidation, I think. Not seeing anything pointing one way or the other. I would say slightly favoring the bulls, very slightly, although some short-term bearishness could definitely be in order. Curious to see what this looks like on the daily. Again, this is really hard. I mean, you just don't have much there at all. So, I guess the reassuring thing is we went pretty low, but do we have to go lower? Or when would that happen? What would that look like? There's just not enough data. That's the problem with doing price analysis. I can only tell you what's likely on a 4 hour. 4 hour, they're predicting a breakout potentially to test this high. So, but that breakout could fail, right? We don't know that that's going to be a successful breakout. It's just that seems to be a likely outcome, that we are going to break out to the upside at least a little bit, but will it be sustained? That I do not know. So we had bullish divergence on the MACD, on the 4 hour MACD, which is very sensitive MACD. As you can see here, we had the bullish divergence, but now we're printing a light green. So what does that mean? Does it mean that we have to go down further, or that maybe we just print a couple light greens and then some dark greens? I mean, that can happen, as you see here. But if I go to the daily time frame, there's nothing there. If I go to like a 12 hour, it's not really great either. I mean, on the 12 hour time frame, I can see a little bit more. You can see the bullish divergence that happened. We had a little bit of bearish divergence, but it wasn't strong enough to flip us, so we actually went green. So this is kind of a bullish thing, to be able to have bearish divergence and then flip green again. These are tiny green candles, but they are something. There's something, okay? So we can't completely disregard them. On the 9 hour, we did get a bearish divergence, but look at what's happening now. It's curling back up. So there are definitely some bullish signs here. It's just you can't say it's long-term bullish because we don't have enough data to even to talk about a long-term, right? That's like psychic powers, okay? And I don't have those. All I can say is that in a 4 hour time frame, it seems that bullishness is likely to come fairly soon. Okay, the Gaussian filter MACD did print a long signal yesterday, but you can see that this has just been choppy, long, short, long, short, long, short. Again, the 4 hour time frame just doesn't give you very reliable data. Unfortunately, on the daily time frame, we actually do have some data here, which is a short signal. So these lines are parallel and crossing down, which is not what you want to see, right? So that indicates that further downside price action on a daily time frame could be a pretty, likely outcome, but this could be shallow and just curve right back up. So again, we just don't have a lot of data to say much one way or the other. I do think some short-term weakness is in the cards, but how long does that last? I don't think it would last for very long before we got some reversion to the upside. The Keltner channel, which is a little bit more sensitive than a weighted logarithmic Bollinger Band, is also contracting, but it looks bearish. Actually looks very bearish. We can't even get above the median line. So this is suggesting, and it's trending down, so this is suggesting, maybe we get a little bullish push. The 4 hour time frame is showing that, but we might have farther to fall. And whether that means we have to come down to the 44-cent level again and retest that low, or we just put in a higher low, I don't know. I have no way of knowing that. All I know is our first test of the Keltner channel was unsuccessful. If we go to a 4 hour, the Keltner channel, which is not really meant for this kind of time frame, it looks a little more crabby, okay, and more likely to be bullish. But I, of course, would pay more attention to signals on a higher time frame if you can get them. And I don't like the way that this looks, to be completely honest with you. I just don't. I don't like it. It does not look strong on a daily time frame. It's looking strong on a 4 hour, but not on a daily. You have to pay attention to the higher time frame, so this is a point for the bears. We don't have enough data to truly analyze the oscillator volume trendoscope for money flow index, other than to say it has been in a descending channel, right? Putting in constantly higher, lower highs and lower lows. Obviously bearish until it's not. It did have a bottom here in I guess 10 days ago. This is from the daily time frame, but it's heading back down again, and this kind of looks like a head and shoulders formation. Shoulder, head, shoulder. So I do think more downside is probably likely. This could roll over a little bit, but not dramatic downside on the daily time frame. So I mean, that's kind of good news. We could see a little bit of weakness continue into next week potentially, if this confirms as a head and shoulders, which it may not. It could come back up for all we know. If we go to the 4-hour time frame, we should be able to get an idea of overbought and oversold a little bit more clearly. We have the green overbought line. We did get up there, actually over it on May 2nd. And on May 8th, we were approaching overbought, and man, we went oversold in like an instant. And so this is actually a little bit bullish because the fact that we're in the oversold territory and broke out of it, and we're kind of back testing right now, like we could come down a little bit lower, but I would anticipate that this red line holds, and that could actually point to some reversion or crabbing, but to the upside. So again, this is just a situation where the 4-hour looks slightly bullish, and the daily actually does look a little bearish, but it doesn't look like so bearish that you'd want to run for the hills or anything like that. It looks like things are getting kind of oversold on the daily time frame, which is good. You do want to see that because it increases the odds that there's going to be some buying pressure, and we can already see where that buying pressure exists. It's like around 45 cents. There's a lot of buying pressure to correspond with this slight amount of horizontal support. That's all the support we have, though. If we break below 45 cents, it's the next level of support would be probably around 27 cents. That's just bad news. We don't want that to happen. It doesn't look like it will happen, though. This is kind of telling us a story like, hey, if we drop, I don't think we're going to drop like that much more. On balance volume has been falling. That's bearish. But the lower that we get, hopefully we can start to see some of that reverse and turn around like it did over here. But this is a much more prolonged accumulation range that we're in. It does look like an accumulation range. I'm not going to lie about that. Doesn't mean you can't have more drops, but yeah, this is not an exciting thing to see with the on-balance volume. The wave trend oscillator shows us that the green or up wave looks like it's turning back over again. You can see it kind of fading out here, a little bit bearish. We have hit this lower zone, the oversold zone, twice already. Seems kind of unthinkable that we would hit it a third time, but this is the 4-hour time frame, so that can happen. You go to a higher time frame, you just don't have data. 12-hour, not much data there. Now, what is nice on the 12 hours, we're curling up. I like to see that. We had a little dot down here. Let's see if, I doubt the 18-hour has much. Yeah, it looks exactly like the 12-hour and the 6-hour. We're kind of going up but curling over again. So short-term weakness does look like it's in a likely outcome, or some kind of reduced strength, just more crabbing for a little while. But yeah, I guess this is not. This M shape up here, this double top, is quite bearish, and it could be a little while before we start to really reliably trend up in this direction. But again, this is a 4-hour time frame, so a little while could be a few days, right? Parabolic SAR has calmed down quite a bit, suggesting a transition out of this like straight up bear market behavior and straight up bull market behavior to something more like an accumulation range. Look at how close together these dots are. That's kind of a good thing. To maintain this uptrend that we're in, we need to maintain 48.5 cents. This will move higher the longer price trends up. So if it does cross below here, we could see some more, down dots. But you can see the down dots, they're not lasting as long. That's why I said this looks like an accumulation range. I don't like this log trend channel. This looks bearish. I hope this changes. You can see that this has been a downtrend. By all means, just an extended downtrend. Whether you look at it on the 4-hour or daily, it doesn't really matter. What we're seeing here is just mean reversion, and it doesn't look that convincing. There's been some resistance at this 1 standard deviation log line, which is around 54 cents. So 54 cents at the current time, and it's just decreasing, right? So we need to see some strength out of this asset. We really do. I like to see it just break out and kind of change this into an upward channel instead of a downward channel. I don't like this at all. But what does kind of help me out here is knowing there's not a lot of data, and this channel here, until proven otherwise, has been heading up. So can it keep crabbing its way up? And potentially. And I would love to see that. I certainly don't want to see this down channel continue, because if it does, and we keep hitting this median line, look at the price, just gets lower and lower and lower. Here we are, May 21st, 9 days from now, and the median line is at 45 cents. And then if we go back down to test down here, 41 cents. And then, you have 43 cents, and you don't have the volume support, the horizontal volume support that you have in this region to support this kind of, downward move. So again, I think demand will pick up. This could come down and test again, around 49 cents. Not a big deal if it does, but I'd like to see this up channel that we've been in, I'd like to see that continue. So I don't want to see it change. So what I'm saying is, what I'd like to see is that this more or less starts to trend out of this channel, and the price, one of my price predictions was getting up to basically this high here, so this is like around 90 cents or so. So if we can test that high, I definitely going to feel a little more optimistic. Now remember, on the fibs, we were just battling around with the 236, so that is good news, right? So we have some good things going for us here. It's just we don't want to see this continue to fall, right? We want to see this change around. It's a brand new chart. This chart hasn't been around for very long, so I think we should definitely give it some leeway and be a little bit optimistic. One of my most reliable indicators, a TRIX bubble, is starting to lean a little bit bearish. Okay, you can see this is starting to look like it's wanting to top out. Now this is on a 4-hour time frame, so anything's possible, but I'm not liking the way this is looking. It looks like it wants to go down, and I just hope it puts in a lower high. If it does that on the daily, we don't look good. We really don't. We're coming straight down. All the moving averages are turned down. So, I'm anticipating, again, some crabbing with a slightly bearish bias, and I hope we can kind of round things out and come back up. That first candle really screwed everything up. There's your VCs and stuff. I was trying to buy this and I couldn't. I had to wait till around here to buy, and it kind of sucks, But yeah, not looking great. No, this doesn't look good. On the logarithmic fibs, we just haven't been able to get above the 0.5, and if you're below the 0.5, that's generally not a great thing. We just keep getting rejected there, so odds are we have to come down, probably retest 2361 around 48 cents, maybe even test the 0.1459. Yeah, it is, we did wick all the way out to 40, like I said, 44 cents. There appears to be some strong demand there. So that's a good thing, but I think we may have to come down and retest that low. That seems to be what this is all saying. We're going to come down and retest that low. And let's hope that puts in a double bottom on a daily time frame, something a little more convincing than this. And we can really just build out some support in some kind of we're already in an accumulation range on the 4-hour. It's hard to say that we are on the daily. The daily looks like we might have to crab around a little bit longer. And even if the 4-hour shows a large move coming, it does not necessarily mean that move is going to be super dramatic for the daily. I'm not liking the stochastic oscillator either. It looks bearish. This was a really bullish move that ended on May 9th, and it's just been kind of coming down ever since. And it's probably going to have to revisit some lower levels. I mean, I know that's not what people want to hear, but it just seems to be the most likely thing, at least coming down to the 36 level. I mean, unless it wants to just shoot straight up into overvalued and probably sell off pretty quickly thereafter. Yeah, I mean, that looks kind of bearish. If you go to the 4-hour, I'll bet you it looks doesn't look that much better, honestly. It looks very, very volatile. It's a 4-hour time frame. The stochastic oscillator is best used on a higher time frame. I wish we had enough data to do a weekly analysis or something like that, but we just don't. So I have to just say, yeah, I'm not looking at any incredible strength from this asset in the next few days for sure. Next few weeks, maybe then, but not in the next few days. I couldn't get a TRIX on the 1-hour time frame, but the TRIX on the 4-hour time frame, on the 1-day time frame, it's below 0, so this is bearish. So far it is a higher low, so that's good, but Will it curl down more or curl back up? It's pretty much flat right now, so it's anybody's guess what happens from here. Visible range volume profile. Well, the good news is we're in an area of major support right now. 52 cents is, sort of your last stop. This is the 236 fib from what I showed you earlier, and at least according to what I started off the talk with. And the bad news is if we drop, it's kind of like not really much support here at all until around that 35-cent level. I'm not going to rule this level out. I'm not. We could hit this level. I just don't know if it's the most likely outcome. As long as we're kind of chopping around out over here above like 49 cents and wicks are getting bought up that go into this region, that keeps me pretty optimistic. But if there's a big sell-off, like a whale decides to sell, things could get ugly real fast, and we could find ourselves down here. It would be awful for people who bought in up here, but that's just something we have to consider as a possibility. Now, I don't think it goes down to like 17 cents or anything ridiculous like what that model was saying was possible. I don't think so. I think we would probably have a little bit of a battle around 40 cents, and I think anything down here would probably get bought up pretty quickly. Truflation, it's a really solid project. Token has a lot of promise. It's gaining popularity very quickly for something this new. Maybe we can take a look under the hood at what some of that looks like if I can find some data on the number of holders and that kind of stuff, just because this is such a tricky chart to read, and it's really hard to form solid conclusions one way or another, other than we're in some kind of accumulation range. So if I pull up the Uniswap trading pair, we can see the market cap right now is 52 million. What hasn't been helping is that Truflation does, I think, regular interval token unlocks, and so it's a linear token unlock, but it during periods of weakness, I'm sure the effect on price is somewhat noticeable. So you can see that there's a total supply of 1 billion. Circulating supply is only 10% of that, so it's going to take a really long time to catch up. The inflation is pretty insane, but it's predictable. It's predictably linear. That's good. There are 5,660 holders, which is pretty good for a project with a $52 million market cap. So let's see if there's anything else we can really pull from here. We had more buys than sells in the last 24 hours. And look at that, a 99% out of 99 out of 99 DEX tools score. So that's awesome. 80% positive, 20% negative. That's a really good thing. Let's take a look at CoinMarketCap for the one of the metrics there that I want to look at. Now I have to remember with CoinMarketCap, a lot of this data may not be that accurate. So this is taking into account, this does not look right. It really doesn't. But what I wanted to see was the volume market cap ratio, which is at about 5.18%. I would believe that. So that's still a pretty healthy ratio. We want to make sure that we've got trading going on. And there's whether it's buying or selling, there's stuff still going on, and this definitely confirms that for us. This is pretty hard to read. This is the YCOB volume momentum. Again, there's just so little data, but looking at it in a 4-hour time frame doesn't really make a lot of sense. We saw a huge drop, lots of selling from the beginning, but you can see an inflection here, kind of heading back. Now, this is not an inflection really, just more of a minimum sort of forming here potentially. You can see some buy volume. There was a really sharp buy volume on May 9th. That tells me there's some demand at that 47-cent level, sub 50 cent. Things are getting bought up. That's a good thing. But the buy volume has been decreasing ever since then. It's just there's not a lot of room to fall down. So, I think by now I can kind of give you my forecast. I think I've seen enough. So my forecast for Truflation is that it is currently in an accumulation zone on a shorter time frame. It has been having decreasing volatility, which is kind of a good thing. I am bullish on this project, but not super bullish until probably we get closer to Q3 of this year. I would say for now, I am a little bit bearish in the short term. I think downward price action to potentially test these lows right here and here could happen and is in fact a likely outcome to happen. I am a little bit concerned that we could potentially, if we have a really large sales that kind of come out of nowhere, we could repeat this pattern, but in a less dramatic way. So we could have something kind of come down to that zone I was talking about, that 40-cent zone. On the other hand, these wicks are very encouraging that we get things bought up from the downside, but we're sort of in a battle between the bulls and the bears, right? We saw in the bull bear power trend that battle seems to be leaning in favor of the bulls at the moment, slightly. So, it's hard to tell exactly how high price will go. One prediction is saying we could test this high. I find that a little hard to believe that would happen right now. But I think as we approach Q3, that becomes more likely, especially when we see Bitcoin kind of resolve itself, Ethereum start to, maybe shake off some of the weakness, and altcoin season start to enter into the picture. I could definitely see Truflation being one of the leaders of the pack. And one of the things that I'm not sure of right now, and there's just not enough data to back this up, but over the next 6 months to 18 months, how strongly will Truflation's price action correspond to its cousin Chainlink, right? So Truflation uses a lot of Chainlink data, and it has a lot of similar features to Chainlink, so it's going to attract a similar kind of investor. So, while Chainlink has been struggling right now, so has Truflation. So if Chainlink starts to pick up some steam, which very likely will, and I think that it will Truflation follow in its footsteps and kind of be like a more volatile version of Chainlink and start to, so Chainlink goes up, maybe Truflation goes up even higher. I don't know. It's just a thought. So, sadly, what I have to say is that, the forecast is mostly neutral with, honestly, anything can happen in one direction or the other. You're not really getting a great prediction out of me because I just don't have enough data to work with. But I think I can say that I can see arguments for both sides, and that's not the kind of prediction that I know you want to hear because you're looking for some guidance. But I think the guidance that I can give you, the reassurance I can give you, is I don't expect a whole lot more volatility from this asset to the downside. Like I said, I think worst case scenario, maybe we come down and test 40 cents or, somewhere in here. Absolute worst case scenario. And that worst case does not have to play out. We have been putting in higher lows. We are showing some signs of strength. I did not really like this fake out, but these things happen. I mean, in fact, something like that actually happened with Chainlink during its bear market, and they just spent a lot of time crabbing. So I think that crabbing behavior at best, probably with a slightly bullish bias. Worst case is that, we are in accumulation zone, but we have another flush out before we start to say, okay, there's the bottom. So I don't know for sure that 44 cents is the bottom. We need time to confirm that. And I think if you have a DCA approach, you should take that into account. One thing I didn't look at here is the beam. The beam on the daily is we're in deep undervaluation territory. So this is definitely a DCA zone for sure. On the 4-hour time frame, it doesn't look much different. This is extreme undervaluation. So being in extreme undervaluation is sort of like if you buy here and this project does well in the future, whether you bought it, 50 cents or 40 cents or 30 cents or 70 cents is not going to really mean anything. Even at the local high of 90 cents, this was still at a beam value of 0.08, so very low risk. So I think this asset could put in some pretty massive gains. It's just a matter of what do you want to do, I think DCAing it at these levels makes a lot of sense. A dynamic approach because and I think that's sort of the conclusion is if you believe in Truflation and the vision of the TRUF token, as a governance token for Truflation, and actually more than a governance token, but mainly a governance token, you have the ability you have to keep in mind people are going to be able to stake this token for years like they've done with coins like Aerodrome and Velodrome. So with Truflation, they're going to be able to do staking like that, lock things up, and get voting rights in the DAO. So all that stuff's being developed. So I guess, my attitude is that this coin is a good DCA. That's what I would say. It's a good DCA, but DCA dynamically. So, when risk is this low, you kind of have to DCA with like a longer term time frame, like trying not to worry too much of the day to day, but thinking more, a lot further out. And this coin has a massive amount of upside potential. Like if you believe in Chainlink, it makes a lot of sense to believe in Truflation. So that's about all I can say. It just seems like a really good long-term DCA opportunity to get in at these prices, even if they do go a little bit lower. I don't think we're going to see Truflation remain at massive undervaluation levels for much longer, maybe another month at most, and then I would start to expect this to turn around. Okay, well, that's pretty much it for me. We had, a 40-minute long video on a price analysis. The reason it went this long is because this was a hard one, and I needed to pull out all my tools to come up with what I just said. And some people might look at that and say, hey, I could just look at a few moving averages. But no, you really need to look at everything. You need to consider every angle, because if you just look at moving averages, you just look at structural TA, you might miss something. So I like to be as thorough as possible. And so that's why when I need to, I will pull out all the stops. Okay, so I hope that you enjoyed this video. Please give it a like, a comment, subscribe, put your notifications on. I know every single YouTuber tells you this, but we have to tell you this because this is how our content gets out there. And I would really love for you to join my free Telegram group, the Snack Pit. I do chart analysis there every single day. I've got alerts that come out to all my subscribers. We've got a really great community of people. We've got a lot of Truflation members in there too. In fact, we've got some people who are moderators on the Truflation Telegram in our group. So, and our group's pretty small. Like we've only got about 225 people in there. And we also like to share news about new projects and current events that are going on around crypto. So yeah, it's a link in the description, and I'll also put a link to the video for Truflation, the project, in case you are seeing this for the first time and you're not aware of what this project even is. So that's about it. Remember, nothing in this video is financial advice. Nothing on this channel is intended to be financial advice. Always do your own research and, do whatever you're comfortable with, not what I'm comfortable with. All right, well, that's about it. I'll see you next time. Thanks for joining me in the crypto simulation. I'm the Gaussian Snick. Have a great rest of your weekend.